Hello and welcome to Two Car Pros. Today we are going to be checking out how to find a vehicle's low side charge port or service port for the AC system, and we're going to be covering a bunch of different cars, so stay tuned if you want to see all the different variants and locations we managed to discover over the length of 4 different vehicles. Okay, so here I am at the firewall, and you can see these two tubes coming out of it, one of a larger diameter and one with a lower diameter. The smaller diameter is the high side tube, the wider diameter is the low side tube, and right here is the low side service port. Now every car is going to have this low side service port located somewhere between the firewall and the compressor. So this is the low side port like I pointed out earlier. Now if you're going to add some R134A refrigerant, this is the port you would use. This is the quick connect. And then of course when you're done adding refrigerant, always make sure to replace your dust cap. So the reason I bring up putting the cap back on, I've seen a couple people not do that. I think it's imperative because you can get dirt down in there, it can inhibit its ability to function, and it helps keep the pressure in. So where you're looking at now, I know it's a little bit difficult to see, is the high side service port. You can tell because it is on a very thin diameter tube way down there, and it's located between the condenser and the evaporator. So here we have a Porsche Cayenne V8, a reasonably high-end vehicle where the dealer makes you think that it is impossible to work on, and I assure you it's actually a little bit easier than the van we looked at earlier. We just had to remove a little plastic piece here. And you can see that they were nice enough to include the high side and low side like almost next to each other. It's really cool. So this is the low side here. You can tell by the wider diameter aluminum tube. The high side is here. That's this port there. You can tell by its smaller diameter tube. And the high side port is always going to be bigger around. The fitting is going to be bigger than the low side. And we can remove this here on the low side, and that's where you would add your refrigerant. And make sure to replace your cap for all the reasons I listed earlier. Alright, so now we have a pretty darn typical economy car here. It's a 2005 Ford Focus with the Duratec Inline 4. So this is a very common car, and as you can see, like before, the high and low side come out of here on the firewall, but there's no ports visible. They go deep down here on the passenger front wheels. So if you have to do a little bit of detective work looking around between the the condenser and where these tubes are going relative to the compressor, and kind of guess where it's going to be. I've seen the tubes go down this way, so we're going to remove the front passenger wheel and the inner fender liner. Like I said before, they just kind of go down this way down there. So there's really no ports visible, so we got to do a little bit of detective work. So we're underneath the vehicle now, our Ford Focus here, and we can see some AC lines here, but no ports yet. So we can basically deduce that we're going to have to take the wheel off and the inner fender liner off. So look, after a little bit of detective work, we have found the low side here on the accumulator. And the accumulator dries and cleans the refrigerant. So a lot of cars are set up this way, where the low side is located on the accumulator. We can remove the dust cap here. So there's the low side port. We're going to have to do a little bit more finding to do the high side. I don't see it anywhere near here. And like in the other applications, once you are done putting refrigerant in, always replace your dust cap. So, even the most obvious of solutions can elude us sometimes. This is the high side port. It's on top of the condenser. I'll go ahead and remove it so you can see the fitting's a little bit bigger than the low side. So that is definitely the high side. It's located in a very convenient spot, but it isn't really the port you're looking for, so it's kind of stupid. It should be the other way around. The low side should be here and the high side should be harder to get to, but what are you gonna do? So now we're on a 2005 Ford F-150 with a 5.4 liter V8. It's a very common pickup truck. We can see that the low pressure line here is right off the accumulator, so we can remove that dust cap there. Now on this one, so now I'm going to show you how to connect the charge line here. So when you're pushing this on, you want to make sure to support it on the rear of the line with your other hand and push straight down just like that until you hear a nice reassuring click, and you can't just immediately pull it back off. Now, if you want a great video on how to charge a system using a cool charge line like this one that you can buy at any auto parts store, I have a link up in the card to that and in the description down below. Now once we're finished, we can pull back on the quick connect here and replace our dust cap. So that is how to find your low side charge port if you want to use a AC can like this from any kind of auto parts store. Super handy to have, and finding your low side port is essential for servicing your air conditioning system. I also showed you your high side port so you can tell the difference yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed and ring that little notification bell down below. It would mean a lot to me. And I'll catch you next time.